and I took it to the tour operators, and immediately they were found of the idea, and that they could see the idea behind it, and said immediately, yes, when can you start? So that was the start of Great Dane.
Welcome to the Travel Plus Loyalty podcast. What you heard here was Thomas Hugo Møller, who co-founded Great Dane Airlines in 2018 and now sitting in Vietnam. We talked to him about the journey during the pandemic and why he is in Vietnam right now. Great Dane Airlines are in Vietnam with 2 planes and 45 employees, and Thomas is a part of the team, and he's also an active captain. Great Dane Airlines was established in 2018 and is in the market mainly to offer charter flights for several Danish tour operators, but also would have some scheduled flights, for example to Dublin. The maiden flight was done on June 19th on a flight from Aalborg to Rhodes. Great Dane Airlines have a fleet strategy to run only Embraer E195 aircraft, and today they have 3 in their fleet. A 4th one is planned to join later this year after the COVID-19 pandemic has stopped. On their planes, they are looking to fly 118 passengers for low fares from Aalborg, but also to continue serving Danish tour operators. But currently they are on adventure in Vietnam, and this Thomas will talk about in our interview. Hi Thomas, and welcome to the Travel Plus Loyalty podcast. It's great to see you, and it's great to have a talk with you. Now you're sitting in Hanoi, Vietnam, readying for your flights coming up tomorrow. You mentioned earlier, but before we start up on that, can you please share a little background on yourself and your role in Great Dane Airlines?
Yes, my background in aviation. I've born into aviation. When I was 3 years old, I started in the back of an Embraer with my father in the front, and I've been in aviation ever since. I have been in various positions. I'm a captain myself, but other than that, I've been in the airport environment, in the management in the airport. I've been in the CAA. I've been in some of the airlines in Denmark. And then when I was in the airport, a regional airport in Denmark, I found the need for a new operator that fits the need of the tour operators. Instead of having a big aircraft, then looking at what is the tour operators. Why I started Great Dane.
Interesting, and then a little bit about the story on the startup of Great Dane. You mentioned a little bit that you needed to have something that fits into the charter area and so forth, and the airline airplane size. But
I started looking at the tour operators in a regional airport. Attracting new traffic is quite important. So when I was in the management there, I could see that we tried to match the airlines and the tour operators. But the airlines had too big an aircraft for a regional airport, and the tour operators couldn't fill big aircraft. So I thought, okay, there's a market for that. If you listen carefully to the customers, then you can find the right product for them. And I started searching in the market to see if there was a smaller aircraft fitting more the needs of the tour operators on a regional market. So that's the start of the Great Dane idea. And then we found the aircraft. We found I wrote a business plan, and I took it to the tour operators, and immediately they were found of the idea, and that they could see the idea behind it, and said immediately, yes, when can you start? So that was the start of Great Dane. And I know starting an airline is not easy. It's not something you do on a day-to-day. So in my business plan, I have planned a year to start up. But all the tour operators, they said to me, no, you cannot wait a year with this fantastic idea you have. You must be ready within 6 months. And I said, okay, let's make a deal. You sign the contract. I'm ready in 6 months. and that's the start of Great Dane Airlines.
Yeah, and the rest is history, basically. So you did
yeah, exactly.
start up, yeah, and you did actually start up and had a good start, getting a lot of demand in for these two operators, and you also expanded and your fleet. So is it right that you have four Embraer fleets, 4 Embraer planes now?
No, we were supposed to have 4 aircraft in 2020, but the 4th aircraft should come in April 2020. And in March, the COVID pandemic came, so we managed to get out of the 4th aircraft. So we have 3 aircraft currently in operation. Start up with 2 in the beginning of June 19, and then we were supposed to scale up to 4 aircraft in summer 2020 because the demand was so huge that we saw the need of 4 aircraft and possibly also 5. But then the COVID came and we get out of the 4th aircraft, so we have 3 aircraft now.
But do you think you are better positioned actually due to the impact of COVID when things are returning back, and we'll come back to that a little bit later. But the aircraft size now is for many in the market saying that these large aircraft will have difficulties in being filled up. Do you think you have a better position, even better position now when things are opening up?
I have no doubt about that. I can already see it now that we can be more agile. The tour operators want to take more risk. They can fill up the aircraft earlier. We had it last summer. The Danish government opened the borders within 14 days notice. Within 14 days, we managed to get the first aircraft in the air. That was 1 month ahead of our competitors. So having the right size can also help the tour operators be flexible. And after this pandemic, as you said, the focus is more and more on the convenient travel with small aircraft. In our aircraft, you sit 2 by 2, so you always sit together with your partner, and it's more safe, and it feels more safe for our customers. So I have no doubt about that. This aircraft is fantastic just after the pandemic here.
And now we're talking about the aircraft. We need to go into all the technical details on it, but the seat pitch and so forth. You say 2 by 2 is also something that is attractive for those who travel compared to your competitors in the charter market.
That's right. I'm raised in the hotel industry, so service and comfort is very much into my mind. So the 2 by 2 is very attractive for our customers. Also, the seat pitch, as you mentioned, that means the size between the seats is 2 inches longer, so it feels much more convenient. The seats itself is 5 centimeters wider, so you feel more space around you when you sit in the cabin. So it's a very nice way to travel, and you feel good when you arrive to the destination also.
And then let's round the aircraft off a little bit by saying, but your choice of Embraer, it's a modern airplane. It's as I say, it's also having low running and maintenance cost, I assume.
That's correct. But when I started the business plan and looked at the aircraft, I was not fond of one aircraft compared to another. I looked at the customers, what was their need, and then I went to the market and see what was there. And I know that I had to look at regional jets to have the size of around 100 passengers. So I looked at all the regional jets at the markets, but the Embraer was the one that is more versatile and more flexible. It can fly 5.5 hours, so it can cover the winter destinations. It can carry a lot of cargo, so you can also take the ski charters, you can also take the golf and so on. So that was the best choice for our customers.
Okay. So basically you have found a good, let's say, niche in the charter market, or at least on having that as offering on the market, because all the other aircrafts that you see in these markets are typically larger or smaller, and the smaller ones are not suitable for charter that is there. So I think the Embraer is fitting perfectly into that. And I have flown it. It's a quite good airplane, I must say, and with the larger seat pitch and also the width of the seats, it's. Of course, it's not a long-haul, fully new Airbus A350 plane, but it's not a bad thing flying to Gran Canaria or something like that on that because of the space in the cabin. So completely right. Looking at the outside of the plane, we see a beautiful Danish flag on the tail fin. Can you tell the story a little bit about how you came up with that design?
Yeah, both the name and the design. I in my business plan, I know I don't have the idea to be creative about the right name, the right logo, and so on. So in the business plan, I just want the feeling of made in Denmark, the quality of being a Danish operator, because I could see that another requirement for our clients or customers was that they wanted a Danish or Scandinavian product, a quality product, because the people flying with us, they want to have a coffee, they want to speak to the stewardesses, and they want to be able to have a good feeling. So the made in Denmark was the feeling I was looking for. And actually the name came out when I sat at my table at home, looking at my dog. I have a Great Dane at home. So that was the idea behind it. And then we explored a lot of opportunities with the logo, and the design bureau was looking about having the dog in the logo. But I said it's not the dog I want to promote, it's the made in Denmark, the quality of that. And then we came up with the idea, why don't we have a Danish flag? Because when you're at your holiday and you're traveling home, you almost feel proud and like home when you see the aircraft on the apron. So it was that way we came in with the idea. But it was fun to.
You must say that it's. And there was no doubt that seeing the plane standing on the apron in the airport, I've only seen it in Denmark, so it's I've not been so lucky to see it on a charter destination or coming back home. But there's no doubt that it's beautiful and it's very recognizable with the flag on the tail fin. So that's good one. A little bit about it. Now you said the Danish feeling. Can you tell us a little bit about how you differentiate you from the other competitors on the market selling to the two operators? How did you win to the market other than that you have the perfect size airplane? Is there other things that you are proud of?
Yeah, I'm very proud of our organization because we always listen to the customers. If the customers want a change, we do the change, and we are very agile. So we are a small organization, so we can do the change rather quickly. So in the beginning, when we flew in the morning, we had small bread, and the customers was not happy about them because they were not fresh. So within 2 days, we asked the local bakery if they could do some fresh bread for us instead, and we changed it. So we always that's how we work to always listen to our customers, because the customers in the end is us them paying us our salary. So listen to them that's a key element.
Business. Yeah, it's a business advice number one, I guess, to listen to your customer. But operating, because we didn't mention that in the beginning, but you operating out of Aalborg, and that is your base basically. And you said that you went to the local baker to say, can we get some fresh bread because they are changing. So the agility of being a small organization and also have focus on the customer side is that what also the two operators they focus on when you come to them, that you are not that strict, that you can adapt to their needs?
They're no doubt they are very happy about it because they get better rating on the online, and they get better feedback because all holidays start in the airport and after that in the aircraft. So if you have a bad start, it's very hard to convince the customers that they have a good holiday. So it's very important for our tour operators that our customers have a good start of the holiday.
Our normal listeners are frequent flyers, or people who fly a lot, and they say to us they also choose airlines or routes or schedules based on the airplane that's flying. Do you think that by having that product you have with the tour operators, that you actually help promote yourself basically via the good service you have?
No doubt about that. It will spread also mouth to mouth that it can be a preferred airline when they go on the holiday. So I have no doubt about that.
Okay, that's perfect, and that may leads us over to the next topic of the day, because you have worked your way through 2020, which is quite challenging for all airlines, and you have done something that I have never seen before of a Danish airline. Basically, can you tell us a little bit about what is the story about Vietnam and how this came up?
Yeah, I was when the pandemic hit us. In the beginning, we thought, okay, it lasts 14 days, maybe 3 weeks, and we got wiser. Let me see that. And when our government in May 2020 came out and say all the holidays are in Denmark, you're not allowed to travel throughout the summer, I thought, okay, that is very bad. We are a startup company, and we cannot afford not having the summer season. So I immediately started looking at the international brokers. What options are there in the market? And I got a lot of feedback, and I tried to sort in the feedback to see where can we be different. Where can we? Because I knew all airlines were bleeding. All airlines were looking for new opportunities, but we have to again find a niche where we are not competing about the Airbus and the Boeing, but where we compete against ourselves, so to say. And that's why the Vietnam project came up. The Embraer has never been in Vietnam before, so it was new to them also. But with introducing of the Embraer to Vietnam, Vietnam closed down the borders completely in the start of the pandemic, so they're not allowed to travel outside. And they had the same need; they need to travel inside. But Vietnam is a very huge country. Going from the north, where I am now, to the south is 2.5-hour flight. That's the same as Denmark to Mallorca in Europe. Yep. So the need of traveling inside the country gets more demanding. And until now, it has not been possible for the Vietnamese to travel directly from the north to the islands in the south, because the islands have small runways, and the turboprops, that's a 4-hour flight, is not feasible, and you cannot get fuel at the islands. They have no fuel, they have no infrastructure, so you have to bring fuel also. So it was a very niche production, and a new opportunity for the Vietnamese to introduce a direct flight from the north to the beautiful islands in the south. So we worked with Bamboo Airways about it. They were also cautious about it because they have never heard about it before, and they could not believe that a regional jet could fly 2.5 hours with 100 passengers and low weight, and land on the small domestic runways, and have fuel to go back to Hanoi, also with 100 passengers. But we made a lot of calculation, and we convinced them, and that's how we started the corporations. And then all the fun began with applying for the approvals and so on.
Yeah. But again, I think it's very interesting the way you see that you want not to compete to where Airbus and Boeing are present and so forth. So you actually saw a niche there in Vietnam and flying from the north, Hanoi, and then southbound to the islands. So again, I think it's a very interesting way that you utilize the aircraft capabilities fully to as you said, bring fuel and so forth, and do a round trip on that part. So that started when and how many employees do you have in Vietnam, and how long? I just read that you expanded the agreement for another period, so apparently it's a success, I guess. But talk a little bit about how you started. How did you get 2 airplanes to Vietnam, and what about employees and so forth?
Yeah, it's a very complex job to do, and first of all, we need to apply for an AOC in Vietnam. And applying for the AOC with an aircraft that has not been operating and has not been approved by the authorities before, it was really challenging. So it was like inventing, telling them how can an Embraer fly. That was the start, and working from there with all the documentation and so on. We rather quickly get the AOC here to fly, and we have 45 people working out here, 40 crew members and 5 technicians. And when you are in a third country as an air operator, you must do anything yourself. You must bring the mechanics. You cannot buy local workforce here. You cannot buy local cabin crew. And also the storage facilities has to be approved by EASA and so on. So it's like landing on the moon. Actually, you cannot get supported by the local authorities. You need to bring everything in. So that was so we have a warehouse here, a local warehouse that is EASA approved, a local workshop, and so on. And we started. We should deploy to Hanoi in the end of July. That was how quickly we got all papers in progress, and we put all 45 employees onto the aircraft, to one of the aircraft, and flew it to Hanoi. We need 2 fuel stops on the way. So the first fuel stop was in Warsaw because it should have the decals to look like a Bamboo aircraft. Mm-hmm. When we were in Warsaw, they had a small spread of COVID inside Vietnam. So they just closed the border and said, you cannot enter Vietnam. So I had 45 employees staying in Warsaw waiting. They were waiting there for a couple of days. We could see that they are not opening the borders again. So we flew back home. That was a big disappointment. Yeah. And we didn't know when to come out again. And actually it took around 1.5 months waiting at home. And then they opened up and said, you can fly in 2 days. So I had to call all the employees again to say, you have to say goodbye to your family for a half year again and meet up in 2 days with your suitcase. They did that. And they flew out here in the middle of September. And then they had to sit the aircraft on the ground, have to go to quarantine for 14 days. And then after the 14 days, they should just go out and make full production. So that was... it was fun to watch in the beginning. So yeah, but it was a huge challenge, as you mentioned. Flying the Embraer is the same all over the world, but the culture, the different way of working on the ground, ATC and so on, that was something they have to take into account. And all our cabin crew, they needed to go on a 2 days training in Bamboo to have the Bamboo service, to have how Bamboo wanted, because Bamboo is a high quality product. They want to be a 5-star airline, so everything has to be very strict in line. So even how the hair is looking, they had to control that. So yeah.
Interesting. So 45 people and now 46. Or of course, some of them is going home because you are also sitting in Hanoi now. You are in your end of your 2 weeks quarantine. So you're preparing to be a pilot in basically under a day's time. How have your trip been from going and saying farewell in Denmark and now 2 weeks in quarantine? What have you been doing in these 2 weeks, and how have you prepared for the job that you're going to do?
Before I traveled, I talked to all the other people being in the quarantine out here to get the best advices. And the best advice that we give, that you should have a normal or as close to normal day as you have at home. So I started mentally preparing for what should a day look like. And I have a big dog at home. So every morning at home, I went for a walk with my dog. So I did the same here, just at the hotel. I have a goal of making 10,000 steps every morning. So I do that here every morning before the breakfast. It's very boring.
In the room.
Yeah, in my room. Yeah. So it's very boring, but it makes me get up and get going instead of just lying in the bed all day. Then I eat the breakfast. Then I go to work from 8 o'clock here. That's 2 o'clock in the night in Denmark. So you get a lot of work done before they get up in Denmark. And then when it's normal working hours in Denmark, I go to the Teams meetings, have the meeting with my management, the meeting with the customers and so on. And then after a day of work, I'd eat my dinner. And every second day at home, I used to run. So that's also what I do here in the room. It's also very boring. But putting on some music and try to think of something else, then it actually is manageable. So in the first 4 days, I run a 510 kilometer route just to see is it possible and what is possible. And then I came up with the idea from talking to my employees. They have been doing a lot of things. Some of them have been running a half marathon. So I thought, okay, I have to go forward with the good example. So I thought at a Saturday where there was no meeting, I took a marathon at the room. That was more than 4,000 times forward and back in the room. And a lot of times I was thinking, what am I doing here? But I managed to get through it, and I succeeded with 4 hours and 23 minutes. So it's not a bad time. It's not a personal record, but it was okay. So
I think it must be the first ever marathon being done in a hotel room. I've never heard about that one before. But again, 10,000 steps in the morning and then continue working out. That has been your, let's say, your way of dealing with 2 weeks of quarantine and that. So how do you prepare for the flight that you have tomorrow? Now you're down there for, was it 5-6 weeks? Where you need to operate as a captain. So how do you prepare for flying in Vietnam?
Yeah, that's also a good question. I like to be prepared. So 2 days ago, I called one of the captain used to fly here, and we went through a day from leaving the hotel and all the steps in the airport, and how to find the aircraft, how to get all the documentation, how to fly, what routes are they flying, what is the local factors here, how is the weather, what is the threats around the airports, how is the ATC communication, and so on. So we took a 2-hour session just briefing on what can be expected. So I'm prepared the most I can be. And then, of course, listen to my first officer.
So have you been doing any simulator training in landing and taking off from the local airports, or is that not something you do? That's just business as normal?
The airports here we fly to is very business as normal. Hanoi is a huge international airport. Normal ILS system, normal landing systems. So that's, for me, is just part of flying. And the same with Con Dao, the island we're flying to. The airport itself is a small airport, but the runway is around 1,800 meters. So it's within our normal operation capabilities. So there's nothing different there. And they don't have advanced procedures. It's in the middle of the ocean, so there's water on both sides, no mountains, terrain, and so on. So it's for me, it's a standard flight. It's not the flight itself that is the problem. It's all the surroundings and the external factors. Yeah.
Okay, so basically, when you have seen Hanoi for the first time, or taking off with your first pilot and landing in Con Dao, and so then you're basically feeling comfortable and can do whatever it is, basically, because everything is professional, and it's as you said in Hanoi has ILS approaches and so forth. So that is business as normal.
Yeah, that's correct. I've of course read the NOTAMs, look at the taxi plates and so on to get a feeling of getting the best situation awareness when I come out there. Yeah.
Okay, so you will start tomorrow. When is your quarantine stopping, and when do you go flying?
I've been in quarantine for 14 days. Tomorrow, I'll be leaving the hotel here, the quarantine hotel, at 9 o'clock, and at 11 o'clock is my check-in for the first flight. So I'm looking very much forward to it. I go to our normal hotel, put the suitcase on, get dressed, and then I go to the airport. So that's I have been relaxing enough now for 14 days, so I need to get out.
You need to get out and also do some work for the company, basically. So you talk a little bit about the need to fly internally, and how is the pandemic in Vietnam these days? Are they opening up, or can they work, or are they in lockdown, or how is the situation currently in Vietnam?
In Vietnam, due to the borders are very strict and very closed, only diplomatics and experts are allowed to enter Vietnam. So they have almost no cases of COVID. They just have a small spread of COVID here, as we have the second wave in Europe also. There was some foreigner coming in with some spread, but they just closed down in the district around that. So the streets are empty for 14 days, and then they can control it. So it's a very different way of controlling it than in Europe. But it works very good because everything is open when you're inside Vietnam. The restaurants are open, the bars are open, you can walk on the street, you can go to the supermarkets and so on. You only have to wear your face mask because of the pollution. So everything is business as usual here. The only difference is that the borders is closed.
Okay, that's good, because that's good for business, I guess. When everything is open, because then they can travel for free. How is the because you just prolonged your agreement with Bamboo on that part, so I must assume that they are happy with the service you're offering and also the load factors on the plane.
Yeah, it has been. They've been very happy about our reliability, our on-time performance out here. And also that there's two main routes that can earn money for them here in Vietnam, and Con Dao is especially one of them, because it's a new destination. It's the first time you can fly here from the north. You can go with a jet aircraft instead of going in a small turboprop. So they are very happy, and we have just extended for 1 month. And I think we can extend more. We're working on it, but at the moment the two aircraft are due for base maintenance, so we have to go back to Europe to have the base maintenance and then come out here again. So that's more a logistic discussion we are having.
Yeah, of course, and that leads us actually to the end of our talk here. But around this, have to go back and so forth, the maintenance, because you've been out there for quite some months now. But you also have some plans for when Europe is opening up again. What are those plans? What is in the calendar when things are opening up? Because I assume the two planes are bound for assignments out of Aalborg, or out of Denmark anyway.
That's correct. And I cannot predict the future. I've tried to many times the last year, but my best guesstimate is that it will open up in our main holiday season, the school seasons, in the end of June, maybe even before for the one who's vaccinated with the corona passport. And bilateral agreement between regions that has low spread of the virus. I think that's possible. But a normal summer, as we have predicted, I don't expect that. I expect that a lot of Danes have already booked their holidays at home, so we have to get the people that really want to travel. They have not been traveling for almost 2 years now. So I also expect that we call it the ketchup effect, that once the borders open, a lot of people want to travel. So we expect to have some kind of traveling this summer, but a normal summer, I expect that for 2022. And my thoughts about traveling, I think the tourism and the leisure traveling will be the one normalizing first, because you can control it much better than business flights. And I think that will open up and be normal or close to normal in 2022 compared to the scheduled service. I don't expect that before 2025, before that gets into normal again.
So you must say that the final comment here, you must say that you basically have chosen the right aircraft type, the right business or the right industry to look at, the charter and the tour operators. You have been very flexible in the way you operate a new airline, a Danish airline out of northern part of Denmark, moving to Vietnam with 45 employees. We've seen some pictures from some of the employees, and they, of course, being away from home, miss their families and so forth. But they still think that it's a good experience for them. And you then have prolonged the agreement also, but you also have some obligations with the tour operators out of Denmark when that opens up on that part. Thomas, any final words from you, or are you ready to fly, fit for fly, as it says?
I'm fit for flight, and I'm looking very much forward to the future. I think Great Dane has a bright future in front of him, and the experience here in Vietnam just bring the team of Great Dane closer together, and we have learned a lot about the service here in Vietnam that we can bring home also. So it's good experience for us also.
Great to hear, Thomas, and thank you for having the talk with us. And I'm sure we will have lots of questions coming out that we can take for another set at some point. Thank you, and enjoy your last day at the Quarantine Hotel. And when you're getting back, be in the plane again tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Henrik.
That was the end of today's special episode, where we talked to Thomas Hugo Møller from Great Dane Airlines. We from the Travel Plus Loyalty podcast team wish you a very good day, and if you do travel, then we wish you a safe travel.